Lesson 2 of Fresh from the Kitchen on TVC. With me, as always, Fresh03. He has a channel on YouTube. Fresh, welcome.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Hopefully all of our problems from earlier and from last week are fully fixed. There we go. Yep. So
there we go. Thanks, Vaping Jake.
So from now on, Fresh, remember that I have to set it to my TV speakers and hit apply.
Got it.
So there you go. Yeah, it's all my fault. But that's why we have professionals like Fresh03 here to walk us through and guide us. He's like hold on, I have the George Michael song on play. He's like my father figure. Yeah. So anyway, for people that are new to the show, I'd like to welcome you, and I'd also like to recommend that you watch all the lessons from lesson 1, 2, and as we move forward, start from the beginning and catch yourself up. It'll help you understand things, because we're going to jump into topics that we talked about last week, this week, and next week from this week. So everything's going to be sort of connected, everything's planned out, and we have an agenda. Last week, we talked a lot about just beginner stuff. Fresh gave a lot of great information on VG and PG and safety, and we talked about some basic supplies that we're going to need for this week. This week, we're going to talk about concentrates.
Yes.
How's your concentration, Fresh?
My concentration is about 3 seconds, is about all you're ever going to get out of me.
Yes.
But I do have 3 different concentrates for tonight to show off to everybody.
So why don't you explain to our viewers what is a concentrate and how does a concentrate, which might come in, for instance, this is a concentrate that's empty, but this is a concentrate from me called Elite. This is another strawberry vape. This is a 30 milliliter bottle. And this is a bottle of the finished version of Puddin' Pounder that is not a concentrate. So this is an e-liquid ready to vape, and this is a concentrate not ready to vape. Why don't you talk about the difference? Why this, and what are we going to do tonight?
So essentially, when we're talking concentrates, we're talking about a company going ahead and mixing all of the flavors that you're going to need into one bottle. And rather than finishing the product and putting their nicotine in and putting the VG in, they just send you a bottle of the flavors. And generally, they do it much, much cheaper, or, well, it's always much, much cheaper than what e-liquid costs in a store, because it's a lot less effort for them. It's actually a lot less money for the company that is doing this to just send you this. This is way less effort, way cheaper. They don't have to put the nicotine in, which is always the most expensive thing. So essentially, you get all of your flavors in a bottle ready to be mixed, rather than going out and buying, these 3 flavors to make one thing. You buy one bottle and you just mix at the concentrate that it's labeled at, rather than going through and having to figure out, I need this flavor at this percent, this flavor at this percent. It all comes pre-mixed, ready to rock and roll. Always good.
And you'll know when you start as a beginner mixer like myself, every time I go to make a recipe that somebody else has made, because I do recommend, learning from other people's experience and looking at other people's completed recipes that are really tasty. I just got a message that said, this is from my sister. She said, Brian, so I've been so excited to tell you, her fiance has quit smoking with the help of me from Christmas. I gave him a starter setup, and he's actually quit smoking. So, boom, that's what this is about.
That is what this is about.
Yeah, so anyway, I had to share that. So when you start to do mixes and you're looking at these recipes and you think you have everything, and I was telling Fresh this before the show started tonight, you're always missing that one flavor. So you have 6 of the flavors and you're missing one. Or try to experiment yourself and you start mixing one amount that's not right can throw off a whole entire recipe, and you don't learn that without making mistakes. Buying concentrates allows you to mix yourself without going through the hardship of trying to find the perfect balance of flavors, because the company's already done it for you, assuming you like the flavor they've made, which, this is one of mine, but, there's a whole bunch of different ones out there. So this little bottle, Go ahead.
I believe on my show it was a concurrence that yours was another strawberry vape happened to be one of the best liquids of the year. I believe me and Rin both said that it was the best e-liquid we tried this year. Another strawberry vape was, and I know it was high up on everybody else's. So kudos to you, my friend.
Kudos to, I always say this, if you vape, you know what flavoring tastes like. You have experience with tasting, you just don't have experience with putting a name and a brand to the flavors you've tasted before, and you don't have the ability to sort of layer. It's sort of like, I know what tomato sauce tastes like, I know what cheese tastes like, I know what pepperoni tastes like, and I know what dough tastes like. When you combine all four, they create a flavor called pizza. But individually, each one of them has their own flavor. So
Exactly.
Knowing how much cheese, how much dough, how much sauce, that's sort of what we're going to do together on this show. And you're going to learn it on the shoulders of people like Fresh, people like Dawn from Adore E-Liquid, DIY or Die, which is an awesome channel. There you go. There's a huge community, and it's always expanding. And you know what the cool thing is? This is only going to make all of our e-liquid better.
Exactly.
It's only going to make it better because new things are going to be created. People are going to get excited. You're going to have different people. Like, there's going to be chefs that are... I was talking to that guy that quit, my sister's fiance. He's a famous French chef in Philadelphia. And he has a book on flavors. It's like the Cook Bible or something like that, or the Flavor Bible.
Yeah.
And the stuff he knows about, like, breaking down flavors and adding this and adding that. Like, imagine when people like that get involved in DIY, which I'm sure there already are chefs that do it. Right?
Yes. We happen to know two. You and I do. That were former chefs slash folks who worked with flavors. John from Adore E-Liquid happens to be one of them.
Yep.
And Vaping Swag. Vaping Swag is the other one. And you can when you taste their liquids and a lot of the complexity that goes into it, you can tell there's a lot of knowledge back behind that. And when you're starting out fresh and you don't have a background to something like that, there's only one way to gain that experience, and that's to start doing it yourself. And the easiest way to start doing it yourself is to grab one of their recipes and just mix up what they do, and then you'll start getting kind of an idea of what the process is like. And that's why concentrates are great, because you can take that first step into DIY, and if you don't feel like going any further than just mixing the concentrates up yourself and getting the exact same e-liquid that you're used to, you don't have to go any further. But if you happen to want to go further, there's a whole other world when you start getting into all these different flavors that you can mix together to create different effects in an e-liquid. So
definitely,
this is the concentrates is an ideal first step. Ideal,
and that's why we're starting here. We're starting simple. At the same time, if you don't give people the payoff, or you invest your money on all these supplies and you get your flavorings and you can't even vape anything that's vapable, that can be very frustrating. So that's why we're starting here, and we're gonna take baby steps. But we're gonna get you vaping. We're gonna get you saving money right away, and we're gonna do it together, because I'm learning just like you are. I'm like, what, a month in?
Absolutely.
And I've learned a lot so far, and we're going to show you that. So let me do this. Let me show you a little trick that I learned, and I was showing Fresh this, and everyone has their own methods, and just because I've done something doesn't mean that you should do it or shouldn't do it. You should experiment and find out what your style is and the way you like to do things. But I bought this little rack on Fast Tech, and I don't have a link for it because it was like 2 years ago, but it was for atomizers, but I decided to use it for flavors. So each one of these bottles is just VG with no nick, and a flavor from a brand. So it's VG and a small percentage of flavoring, and I put it in here. I put it in a dark, cool room to steep, and we'll talk about steeping later today, and we're going to have a whole episode on steeping. And what I started to do was every week or so, I just took it out, dripped a little on my atomizer, took a vape, dripped a little on my finger, and tasted it. So like I have like 10 different creams here. Sweet cream, fresh cream, this cream, that cream. I have all these different strawberries. I have all these different cakes. I think learning the base flavor before you even begin to mix them together is a good thing to learn, because then you'll and yes. Don't be afraid to taste VG. Don't be afraid to put it on your tongue as long as there's no nicotine in it.
And here's my bag of 5 milliliter bottles that it's always sitting right next to me. And these are for when I get new flavors in. I'll mix myself up a 5 ml test batch of just the flavor and some VG. And generally what I'll do is I'll go on ELR and I'll look and see what everybody's recommended per single flavor percentage. I can show that really quickly.
Let's do it.
I can. I believe in me, Brian.
I believe in you and me. I believe in that we were meant to be, I think, in love eternally.
All right, so you should be able to see my screen here, Brian.
Yes, we can.
So, hopefully the audience can see it. We'll find out shortly. If you start seeing them saying screen black, Brian, stop me. Okay. So I'm going to go into Strawberry Fog V2 here by Hexabraid Coils. And this will be the very first flavor here. And so you can see the basic flavors. You can see what the person's recipe is here. We've got Bavarian Cream, cheesecake, real flavors, sweet strawberry, strawberry ripe, and vanilla custard. So, you know, it's a really nice basic recipe. It's going to be a lovely little strawberry cheesecake that they're putting together here. So what you do to check out the individual flavor and figure out exactly how these folks came up with this is you go into and you just click on the flavor. And as soon as it loads up here, Tf8 Bavarian Cream, which is this flavor right here, the Tf8 Bavarian Cream. If you do not have it in your arsenal, I would recommend buying yourself a big old bottle of it. Of course, here we go. And so, as you can see, I have this flavor. It tells me. You scroll down here, and it tells you the average that a person uses as a mix. So the median's 3%. Generally, people just throw it in at 3%. And then you go over here, and this is the single flavor recommendation. So if someone's mixing it just by itself at 5%. So generally what I'll do is I'll grab this median number right here, and that's what I mix my sample batches at to see. This is where the vast majority of people like this flavor. If I had to guess, there's 762 people. So there's 762 people that have said something about this flavor, and the average that they like this flavor at by itself is 5%, and that's where I mix my sample batch up to try the flavor just by itself. So, folks that were wondering about ELR and kind of how to maneuver around in it, this is how you maneuver around in it. You just go in, click on a flavor, figure out what everybody else is doing. You can make your sample batch off of that, and we'll come back to ELR here shortly.
And by the way, that's your sample batch. You wouldn't do 6.2% of that flavor if you were mixing other flavors with it. Depending on what you were making.
Otherwise, you would taste nothing but Bavarian Cream on top of whatever else you're throwing in. So mixing it by itself is just getting that flavor by itself. And Bavarian Cream by itself, it's kind of a meh flavor by itself. But you put it in other things, and it's fantastic. The things you can do with fruits, and it can go really well with yogurts and cakes and all sorts of good stuff. So just everybody, if you were curious on how to figure out a sample batch, if you wanted to go and test your flavors before we do our mixing next week, you can go and do test batches like that. Just find out what the median percentage is, mix it up at that. And if you have questions on how to do that, we'll show you how to do that when we get into mixing concentrates here momentarily.
Yeah. And you can also do it if you have just the VG with the nic already mixed in it, but you don't want to start dripping that on your finger and tasting it that way, just because I think you might get a little bit too much nicotine than what you're used to. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. I'm just being extra precautious for safety reasons. But
yes. I mean, if you have the VG nic, 1 drop of liquid, I'm sure we've all gotten a mouthful of liquid when we over drip. Yeah. Yeah, you're getting way more than that than you are with just a drip on your finger. So just a drip on your finger, unless it's that 100 milligram nic, it's not really going to do a whole lot to you. So you need to be safe, but you can also overdo the safety. And yeah. I've had conversations with folks about overdoing the safety. But it's always better to be cautious, but you don't have to take it to an extreme.
So, Fresh, why don't you screen share the Facebook group for Fresh from the Kitchen and show everybody. I created this last week after the show because I felt like there was a need for it. And I'll explain once Fresh screen shares exactly what we have there and what you can do.
I will see if I can get into it.
Yeah.
on this computer because I do not have Facebook on this computer.
Oh, okay. That's okay. There's a Facebook group called Fresh from the Kitchen, DIY on TVC, I believe it's called. Fresh from the Kitchen DIY on TVC.
Yes.
There's actually a link below this video, and it'll be when we re-upload it. And it's a Facebook group. It's a DIY Facebook group for this show. It's going to be where community members, new and old, can go, post questions. We can do polls. But what I'm also going to do is do a calendar. So every single show will have its own calendar event created, and it'll have a list of everything you need for that show so that you don't forget or get behind. I'm also going to flood these shows below in the comments section with links for recipes that we're working on, for what's coming up. And as we go along, we'll sort of keep what works, get rid of what doesn't, and try to make this as seamless as possible as we're learning as we go along. And we'll sort of know from your feedback what you like, what you don't like, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. So let's go for a second and talk about concentrate mixing. So there are a few ways, and I've done it every possible way since I've got it. There's a few ways to mix your liquid. So you have this big bottle, and Fresh and I were talking about this. So this is a gallon.
This is also a gallon. Well, that's what's left of my gallon.
This is a gallon. I think this is a liter, if I'm not mistaken. This is VG, 100% VG with nicotine, right? You'll notice, though, that VG by itself is really thick. It's like, you know what it's like, Mark Fagan.
That's right. Yeah, Mark Fagan definitely knows what it's like.
You know. VG. It's heavy. So, and there's different people in here that have different strength levels and different, you might be older and not be able to mix. So there you go, Fresh. See that? That is a ketchup bottle. And he makes smaller batches of VG so that he can mix it easier.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because the nicotine's going to sit, and it might separate from the VG. So you want to make sure, like for me, I'm going to take this, and for about 30 seconds, I'm going to mix the shit out of it.
Yep, just shake the bejesus out of your bottle every time you pick it up.
But what you can also do is get a smaller bottle, which this is why I recommend when you order, if you don't want to go out and buy little containers, you could buy a liter, and you could buy a gallon. And then when the liter's empty, you can start pouring your gallon into the liter, and it's easier to work with a smaller, or buy the ketchup bottles. Or steal the ketchup bottles.
Yes.
We don't condone stealing, but... And lastly, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you get your bottles, look on the bottom. You're going to want to look at the type of plastic that it is. You want LDPE plastic. LDPE does not leach no matter what you put in it. This is what they use to contain acids. And so when you're picking up your bottles to contain nicotine, VG, that sort of thing, you don't want the plastic leaching into it. You can go out to the dollar store and find ketchup bottles, but the plastic and the chemicals that are in the plastic are going to leach into it if you have a minute long enough. So when you're looking at the bottom of the bottle, just look for the 4 letters LDPE, and that will keep you safe.
These were also LDPE bottles that I got from Harbor Freight. I think Dear Addy recommended these.
Yes, I believe I recommended them to him.
There you go. So yeah, these are sweet bottles too, and they also have measurement markers on them.
Yep, 8 ounce.
Yep. So Fresh, how many milliliters are in an ounce?
In an ounce, roughly 30. But 8 ounces is 230. I think it's 236.7. I think it's 236.7. We'll just say 236 for that 8 ounce mark here on the bottle.
What I've also found to be challenging at times is sucking, even though I'm experienced at sucking thick VG out of these bottles. So you could pour it, right? And yes. you could also buy some funnels, right? Or you could use a big syringe like Fresh has right there.
Yes, this is a 30 mil. This is a 30 mil. Well, it's a, what is it? It's a 30 cc, 30 cubic centimeter, which is a milliliter flavor injector. And I got this at Bed Bath & Beyond.
And I also have the 30cc flavor injector.
Yes.
So there you go. Yeah, really helpful. You could put a syringe on it if you want to get to the bottom, but you could suck directly from the tip without the syringe on it, or without the needle tip. But what I found works also is this is actually a turkey injector tip.
Yes,
and it has huge holes in it, and it works really good for sucking VG.
And that works especially well when you get down to the bottom of those bottles.
Yeah,
you can line up that hole and just draw hard, and it'll suck it right up.
So you're here tonight. You have your little bottles of concentrate. Let's talk for a sec before we start mixing about percentages. So most concentrate bottles will have a percentage. If you take a look at another strawberry vape, the percentage is 25%. If you take a look at Puddin' Pounder, it's 20%. If you take a look at Banana Bondage, it's also 20%. Do you have any other ones besides 20% there, Fresh?
Yes, I have Rhodonite by DIY or Die. This is 9.3%.
Okay, so a lot less flavoring.
Yes, and we got Addie's Yogurt, which is 20, and then we've got Vaping Swags here. This is Vaping Swags concentrate. This, it says right on the bottle exactly how big of a batch you can make. You can make 100 milliliters with this, which is brilliantly done by Swag. Brilliantly done, because there's no questions at all about this. You dump your 30 ml bottle into a bottle, and then you add 70 mils of your VG on the top of it. And You're done.
And you're done. So for my liquid, 20%, which would be the Banana Bondage, 30 milliliters, right, would be 20%. So you multiply that by 5 to get to 100%, right?
Yes.
So you have 30 milliliters times 5 is 150. So it would be 120 milliliters of VJ for 30 milliliters of the concentrate.
Yes.
That's for 20%.
Total.
For 150 total.
Yep.
For another strawberry vape, it's 25%. So you would need 90 VG or 90 milliliters of VG, and you would need one bottle of this for 120 milliliters total.
Yes.
Now, Fresh, where can people go to figure out these percentages?
I'm glad you asked. ELR. We're back on ELR again, everybody. And there's a reason I said we will be back to ELR. So one question I actually saw a lot over the week was, Fresh, I'm on ELR, and I can't make the recipe work because it won't take my 3 milligram VG. It's an easy solution.
3 milligram Nick VG?
Yep, the 3 milligram Nick VG, and it keeps telling me that the recipe won't work because I'm telling it that I want 3 milligram, but I'm not able to get it at 3 milligram. So it tells you to add PG into it. It tells you how to add PG and it tells you to add nicotine to get the milligram strength back up. There's a really easy workaround.
Explain what you mean real quick before you do the workaround of what you mean by get your milligram of Nick back up.
So ELR is a calculator, and when you tell it something, it does not have the ability to think for itself. So if you have 3 milligram VG Nick already pre-mixed, and you're mixing it with a flavor at, what on earth? My camera here.
I see, it looks like you lost a lot of your facial detail and features.
I'm not sure what that is.
Did your camera break?
No? It's telling me about my spin charge.
Well, do you want me to keep talking while you figure that out?
Yeah, go for it, Brian.
Okay. So we're having technical difficulties, but that's okay. So basically, first of all, for people that are new this week, we're dealing with, on this show, at this stage in the show, we're dealing with pre-mixed VG with the nicotine already in it. Okay? So this is, there you go, you're back. This is 100% VG, well, not 100% VG because there's nicotine in it also, but
yes.
it's 100% VG
pre-mixed at 3 milligrams.
At 3 milligrams a Nick for what I like. The problem is that when you add flavoring concentrates to this, it's no longer 3 milligrams of nicotine. It's less.
Yes. And so that's why ELR is flipping out. Because you're creating a recipe that is 2.5 milligrams of nicotine or 2.7 milligrams of nicotine, depending on how much you've added. So it's something that you need to keep in mind. And like I said, there's a way around it. There is a way around it. And so what you do, just be aware that you're not going to get a true 3 milligram nicotine unless you want to vape that liquid straight, or vape your unflavored liquid straight, which a lot of people do. They do that because it is one of the cheapest ways to vape on the planet.
They do?
They just vape that unflavored nicotine straight.
It's like when I was in high school, they had this icy called a Vita Pup or Vita Pup.
Yes.
And we used to get it without flavoring added, and it tasted like apple juice.
Exactly. And I've been told by a couple folks that it tastes like Marlboro Lights. So right here, what we did is we went to create recipe, everybody. So you just go to create recipe, and it's going to come in preset on a couple of things. Generally, it's going to come preset with whatever your favorite nicotine is. Just go like this because you already have your nicotine mixed in. Tell it you don't want any nicotine at all, and that's going to readjust it. Next, go down here to this setting and just hit max VG, because otherwise you're dealing with adding PG to your mix. You're adding all sorts of things to your mix. So this is just straight basics right here. You tell, this is what I want. I want to make, well, we're going to make more than this. So we know, let's do this. So I've got Rhodonite concentrate. Rhodonite concentrate, as you can see, it's already in there, and people like it at 9.3% according to my bottle. So if you scroll down below this, you're going to see, okay, that's a 30 ml batch. I need 2.79 mLs for that 30 ml batch. I don't want to make that. I want to make a bunch more because this is a really tasty e-liquid.
You want to use all of it?
As much as I can, yes. And so let's go ahead and bump that up to 300 mLs. Scroll back down, you see we're still not at a 30 ml bottle completely. So you
what size is his concentrate bottle?
30 milliliters.
Okay.
And so 300 mils, that's a pretty big batch for something that we're doing. So I'm going to go back down, and I'm just going to make 120 of this. And there we go, 11.16 mLs. I'm going to, for anybody that wants to change your stuff around, go to user, your preferences. It's not on there. If you ever want to know my email, there it was. Change your settings to grams, because I'm going to mix this at weight. It's just way easier to mix a batch this big with weight. So we'll go back to creating a recipe. I just do the exact same thing. Down to 0, max VG, because I'm not adding anything else to it besides the flavor and the VG. We go to Rhodonite. Rhodonite, 9.3%. And I want to go back up and change my setting to 120 mils. Now, my recipe, my calculation for this recipe is already done. That's the reason this is such a fantastic website, is because I can switch from drops to grams. I know exactly how much my grams are. Surprise, surprise. 11.16 mLs is 11.16 grams.
Yeah, they go very close.
They're almost always right on top of each other.
So let's do something. There's a lot of people out there that purchased, because I know from the sales on the Elite website for the concentrates, so that's at 20%. I'm actually going to mix banana bondage concentrate and pudding pounder concentrate tonight in one flavor.
Now, you know what you can do,
What's that?
Brian from the Vapor Chronicles, is we'll go back to the ELR homepage here.
Yes.
And let's go ahead and do banana bondage. Let's go ahead and search for banana bondage. And as soon as the site decides to cooperate, boom. Oh, look at this. Gizzard stew. Gizzard stew. Banana bondage by Adore. To make a 150 ml batch, he already has everything set up for you.
So you can see here at where it says grams and milliliters, 30 milliliters, which is what your bottle will come in, right?
Yes.
So you're going to need 150 milliliters. So I'm going to make a batch tonight of banana bondage and pudding pounder. It's going to be half and half, I think. What do you think? Half and half, Fresh?
Sounds good. Well, pudding pounder's quite strong.
So what do you think? 2 parts?
I would do a 75-25 if you want that banana to come through a bit more.
Okay. So what do you think about 20 milliliters of banana bondage and 10 milliliters of...
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And because they're used at the same percentage,
so
you don't have to do any extra calculations.
So I'm going to use this container for my mix, okay? But the first thing I'm going to do is put on some gloves, okay? So I'm going to grab some nitrile gloves. Fresh is going to mix with me. We're both going to mix.
I am going to mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera very quickly, thanks to my handy dandy.
I'm going to need to move mine too. So let me move my microphone. Get creepy with the gloves.
You see, Fresh with his ultra cheap solution to filming.
I'm also going to put on my splash protection. This is not sponsored by Dinner Lady, even though lemon tart is fucking delicious.
It is.
Grab
All right, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody, it's ST Rapes.
I also would recommend that if you have not, to get some eye protection. So, I have these awesome clear spectacles. And if the pump goes down for the shitter, I could dive in there too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't recommend mixing where you shit, but hey.
And this is what I like to use for my eye protection.
We could do meth mixes too, Fresh.
We do have a request for a meth mix.
Yeah. There's something about gloves and glasses that makes me want to fuck. Sorry.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Is Mark Fagan out there?
Yep.
Hell yeah. Bring that sexy ass on.
Come on, bitch. Bring that sexy ass. Alright, so I'm going to bring the camera down too, Fresh. Give people what they want.
So I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this by weight. I don't know that they're going to be able to see my camera here or be able to see the number.
I'm going to do it by milliliters, while Fresh does it by weight.
So, first thing you do when you're mixing by weight, everybody, take your bottle, go ahead and unscrew your cap. You're just going to put it on here, and that'll tell you how much your bottle weighs. So my bottle weighs 14.66 ounces. So over here on the corner is a button for tear. So you just hit tear, and that takes this out completely. So next, I need 11.16. I'll move this up so you guys can now see me doing this. Actually, I'll flip the scale around so I can see my numbers here. So I need 11.16. This is one of the really nice things about mixing by weight is you don't have it's just straight from bottle to bottle. So 11.16 grams. So then I just squirt away here. All right, so we're at 11. We're at 10.3. 10.48. 10.67. 10.9. 11.11. 2, 3, 4. One more drop. 11.16 grams, everybody. 11.6 grams of Rhodonite. Go ahead and hit tear. And I believe I needed 141. 148.41. 148.41, everybody. 148.41 for this. So next, just VG. So 148.41. And so we're going to be at this for a little while. You'll be able to tell when you're getting close. Everybody, I did have a request for a high pour on the Saturday show. And everyone that was new that checked out the Saturday show with me and my friends doing some crazy mixes, thank you for showing up. That was awesome. You guys turned out to check it out.
Because they love you.
And those of you that don't love me, I hope to convince you that that I can put my penis inside of you at some point as well.
Fresh is a very physical teacher.
I can be.
He can be. He's a hands-on teacher.
So we are almost there. We are closing in on our 141.16. So there we are at 140.31, 140.7, 141.10. Add another drop. So this went up to 141.24. I'm not going to worry about it, not in a batch this big. Not going to worry about it at all. We're done. And there we are, everybody. Done, complete. So there is my batch of Rhodonite. 120 ml batch of Rhodonite. And then if you look, I still have way over half a bottle usable. So I can make up 2 120s plus probably another 70 mils or so out of just one 30 ml bottle. And these run over on eSig Express, the DIY or dye concentrates. These run $10. $10. So they really, these right here, the DIY or dye concentrates really are one of the cheapest ways to go. So same thing as always, just a nice shake for about 45 seconds. I'm going to pass it over to Brian over there at the mixing desk. Brian?
Yes, so I'm going to actually be mixing, and this is for you new DIYers that want to mix in milliliters, and you want to do it really, really simple. You don't have to buy a scale. You can do it really on the cheap. And you'll notice here that I have a little, this is a 200 milliliter bottle that I bought off of Nicotine River, and I put water in there. And the reason I put water in there is so that I can make a mark on the side with my marker for 120 milliliters. All right, there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you why. So here's my mark for 120 milliliters of water. I measured it. I just took my 30 milliliter syringe, sucked 4 30 milliliter fulls of water, put it in here, and then I marked it. All right, so I'm going to go dump that out. Fresh, is there any trouble if there's a little bit of water condensation in your mixing bottle?
No, it's ideal to let it dry, but water is water.
Okay. So I'm going to actually dry it out because I like to follow the master with his recommendations. So let me dry this out real quick. And the reason why I did all this is so that I could easily take my mixed VG, which is here with 3 milligrams of Nic, because I know that the recipe that I'm about to mix, which would be a bottle that comes in the mail like this, okay, this is not, by the way, I'm not mixing another strawberry vape, I'm mixing Banana Bondage, which is 20%. I know that I need to make 150 milliliters. So a 200 milliliter bottle will fit 150 in there. 120 milliliters of VG is needed. So I'm going to take my jug right here, And I'm just going to pour in to the bottle up to the fill line that I created. Boom, right there. That's as simple as it gets right there. So the next thing you do is you would take your concentrate bottle and you would dump the whole 30 milliliters into the container. But in my case, I'm not going to do that because I'm mixing two concentrates together that are both 20%. But if you have your bottle, which would be like this, you would want to dump that in there right now. Okay? So I'm going to grab a syringe, and I'm going to grab a 10 milliliter syringe. So I'm going to do 20 milliliters of banana bondage. So I shook my concentrate bottles up, and I'm just going to suck this out. 10 milliliters. Now, I don't have big concentrate bottles. These are special ones just for me because it's my concentrate. So I'm going to squeeze that in. There's 10. And there's another 10. And then I'm going to grab 10 of the pudding pounder. So that's 30 milliliters total. And you wouldn't have even needed any syringes at all for this if you had the bottles. For the easy DIY. This week's easy peasy DIY. Okay? So I have my container. Now, everyone always asks, well, how do you mix it, right? Well, you have a couple different options. Number one, why don't you talk real quick, Fresh, about a warm bath?
A warm bath. A warm bath is water somewhere between 120 and 180 degrees. And what it does is it helps cut the viscosity of the VG down and lets everything blend together a lot easier. And so what a lot of folks will do is they'll keep like a nice coffee cup or something next to them that has that nice warm water, or they'll have something set up in the kitchen, and you just go and you place this in it for just a little while, and then it'll allow it all to blend far easier. And if you leave it in there for enough time, it can cut some steep time off, but it's also not 100% ideal. So
how long are we talking about leaving it in there?
If you want to cut steep time, if you just want to allow things to mix, you don't want to do anything more than about 5 minutes. If you're talking about trying to do like a quick heat steep on it, you probably don't want to go anything over. You can do it up to 8 hours, but somewhere right around 3 is quite good.
So over on the other side here, and I'll show you guys with my camera, I have a little ultrasonic cleaner right there, and I put some warm water in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and rest it in the ultrasonic cleaner with the warm water, and give it a couple minutes to sort of make the VG a little bit thinner, so that I can mix it easier. Okay, exactly. You don't have to do this. You can actually mix it by hand and shake the hell out of it. But I'm showing you this process tonight. I'm going to try.
That's how you get forearms like this. You get forearms.
We know how you get forearms like that, Fresh. Let's be honest.
You can also get it by jerking off. You're correct.
So I always do a couple cycles in the ultrasonic.
Cycles in the ultrasonic. I am absolutely fine with a couple cycles on an ultrasonic.
And actually, what I do is when mine is in the ultrasonic with the lid still open, I'll actually use my little milk frother.
Yes.
I actually picked this up at IKEA the other day for $3, and see that? It helps froth it and mix the flavorings together with the little milk frother.
Yep, and if you can froth it up until it's a white foam, you're in the right area for speed steeping via that way. There's about a 45-second delay, Swag. Speaking of vaping swag, this is Vaping Swag Green. This is a vanilla chai latte. That's what this flavor is. Vanilla chai latte. I love this flavor. Love this flavor. So, now we're moving on to a different way to do this. So, here we are. So, if you read right on the side, Swag has it set up. Right on the side it says, you need to mix this at 100 milliliters. This makes 100 milliliters of e-liquid. And so, when you crack your top, there's not even a button. There's not even a nipple on that. You just take it, take your 2 bottles, and just go like this.
Really fresh.
Just like this. Do it some squeezing. So because we know this is a 30 milliliter bottle, we know it's a 30 milliliter bottle that makes 100 milliliters. That's why Swag's concentrates, like I said, are kind of ingenious. This makes 100 milliliters, period. No ifs, ands, or buts, no percentages, nothing. Just 100 milliliters. So there's that. It's empty. So next, you need to figure out how to measure out 70 milliliters of Dg. What I have here is just a graduated cylinder. You can do it brinded. You can measure out 70 milliliters into a bottle. You can use your 30cc syringe. Maybe it's better to use the 30cc syringe to show you how to do that. I can go directly into the bottle with it, with my 30cc syringe. You just want to make sure your syringe is nice and clean. Remember, always wash up after your DIY because you are going to be inhaling what you've got. So here's my giant bottle of Dg over here on the side of my microphone stand here. So what you do, take this, not going to be working. This bottle's too empty to work that way. That is easy enough. We'll go back to the original way. Graduated cylinder, just something you can measure 120 milliliters out in, or 70 mils of Dg into. And then you just start pouring.
So while he's pouring, I'm going to use my little milk frother because this is warmed up, and just start frothing. Fresh, any recommendation for method of frothing? How to move the frother in the liquid? How to...
As long as you're hitting all the different parts of it, you are good to go.
How long do we froth for? You said till it gets milky white?
You can go until it goes milky white. Perfect. 70. Here's my 70 mils of Dg. All drawn up. And then I just pour. Nice and slowly into my batch. And just allow the VG a little time to run out, because
it looks like a Coke when you have it sitting in ice too much.
Yeah, it's... Oh, look at that. Yours is looking good over there, Brian.
Is that getting frothy? Yeah.
That's looking good, yeah.
Now, RPMs, guys, or speed, these things aren't the most powerful for whipping up flavoring, and I just wanted to show you. There's another tool that you can get. Greg actually mentioned this, and a couple other people have too. This is from my wife's kitchen upstairs, and I stole it from her. This is called the Cuisinart, no, this is a Hamilton Beach one. But what are these called, Fresh? Do you know?
Isn't that just a hand blender?
Yeah, like a hand blender. But the problem is that you're not going to be able to use a hand blender for small batches because this ain't going to fit in there. So if you want to, you can grab a container and you can blend it that way. If you had, and you could use a glass jar. There's tons of ways, guys. This is only one show, one way for one mix. There's so much creativity involved and so many ways to do this.
And there's that lovely sound from shaking. You gotta love that sound. I know Mark Hagan's out there just falling all over himself with that noise. Perfect. And so if you wanted to see what I meant by getting it nice and frothy, That's what I meant by getting it nice and frothy. You just, in the end, this liquid is going to wind up being see-through, but you just want to aerate a lot. You just want to force a lot of air through the liquid and force it all to mix up. Boom. So there we go, everybody. There's Vaping Swag Green done.
And the nice thing is that you make so much volume of these concentrates. If you buy in bulk, you don't have to worry about doing this more than once every week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And if you get really smart and you invest your money right, you can actually get really large amounts and have a whole bunch of tasty steeped liquid.
Exactly, if you get your timing down.
Yep. So let me just pull my camera back. Here we go. All right, so my bottle is back together. And somewhere around here is the lid for this, which I'm really good at making messes. So what I like to do also is when I write what I'm mixing on my bottles, you can use a black magic marker, and I usually write somewhere toward the top of the bottle, just so that if I put this in a warm bath, it doesn't rinse off. Okay.
Exactly.
Or if you want to go it a little more professional, you can get yourself a little label maker, and you could print your own label, and that works too. Also, I know I said this last week, but notebooks and pens and documentation, whether it's digital on on your tablet or your phone, or a manual notebook like this. I know some of you don't even know what this is. This is paper, lined, and this is actually an analog pen. And you want to write down notes, everything from what you were trying to do, what flavorings you used, what percentages, what amounts. Feelings about what your outcome should be, and then when you taste it, what your thoughts are a week later or whatnot. Some liquids shake and vape, like we'll show you next week. Some liquids require a steep of a few days, some of them a few weeks. That's why our community is so important, because we can share with each other our experiences and talk about these types of things.
Exactly. I've got Rhodonite, I've got green.
I personally vape another strawberry vape. I shake and vape that. It gets more creamy as time goes on, but I still like it when it's fresh.
It is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic no matter when you vape it. The same thing with Rhodonite. Rhodonite, if you guys wind up having to pick up Rhodonite, after now you've heard exactly how cheap it can be to mix up. It's really good right away. Ideally, you want to let it sit 3 to 5 days, but you do not have to. If you're impatient and you just want that strawberry ice creamy bar flavor.
Fresh. I think we need to get these made. What do you think, Vaping Swag? You think we could get some custom, fresh from the kitchen Vaping Swag
aprons?
Edition? Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I would totally do it.
I would.
Like a butcher's apron, like all leather and awesome. With like 100 pockets and places to put stuff.
Like an artist's smock.
Yeah.
Little Shane Preston action.
Vaping Swag Green, Rhodonite. I was going to do one more before we jump off the air here.
If I had a choice, by the way, between a milk frother and this just manual method, I would use the warm bath, and I would just shake the shit out of it myself. I can get much better creaminess doing it this way. Those milk frothers, personally, with max VG, they're not strong enough.
So 8 ounces, an 8-ounce jar. Do I have anything that really requires a steep?
I've been doing this movement my whole life, and I'm an expert.
And now it's all paying off.
It really is. I think my movement per second is like ridiculous. That's not camera tricks, guys. That's real, legit wrist movement. Look at the buys. Hold on.
Perfect.
Look at that creamy substance.
Heck yeah. And that's what we're talking about by frothing it up. You can use a milk frother to do it. You can use an ultrasonic to do it. Whatever you want.
I'm going to call this bondage pounder.
Bondage pounder. Oh, Don's gonna feel betrayed.
Somebody in the comments, so who was that? Niji said,
Niji?
Look up at me, make eye contact with me, Brian, when you do that.
I do that for Niji all the time on Saturdays. So Niji's just getting demanding. You're just out of hand, Niji. That's all it is.
I also put the date that I made my mix, so when I put it in the dark closet, I know exactly when it was made, so I know when it's sort of going to be ready. How often, Fresh, should you open your bottle and let it air out, and how long should you let it air out for?
I like to do it every day for about 10 minutes or so, up to 15. Generally what I'll do when I've got a batch of something made up in the back, I'll go and I'll open it and I'll go and put all my stuff up, come back, I'll close it back up, and then I'll give it another shake, and then I just put it back on the shelf and forget it until the next day.
So there you go. Somebody's going to call it pounded bananas.
Pounded bananas, I like it. So 17%. I'm totally cheating here, everybody.
I don't even know what you're doing.
I am going to do caramel apple crisp real quick as well. Because
20%?
somebody did ask about one thing I need to show here. Because we do have a couple folks who went out No, I did not tell you to make caramel apple crisp at 1%. I said 17% ELR.
By the way, this 200 milliliter bottle from Nicotine River is really good for mixing, really bad for vaping. These leak when you squeeze them every day, but they're awesome for storage. And I find that if you have trouble getting your liquid out of a bottle, just take a scissor and just cut that nipple just a little bit down, and it widens the opening, and it allows you to squeeze it a little bit faster.
Ooh, we're close. 170. I think this is going to be 172 total mLs. And the caramel apple crisp does require a bit of a steep.
I'm going to smell this.
Should smell fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yes. So the caramel apple crisp at 17%, everybody, makes roughly about 172, between 172 and 173 mLs. Now, so we're going to do this, everybody. So first things first. Now, someone was asking if I didn't buy the nicotine pre-mixed with the VG, what do I do? You stepped up. I believe someone said they bought 7.2%, which is 72 milligram e-liquid. So as soon as I pop that cap off. So first thing you do, just dump this, get your flavoring in there. Caramel apple crisp, lovely.
This is not for beginners, guys. I just want to point that out.
Your Sinful Apple Rolls on its way back? Heck yeah. Made my day when Dawn told me that it's making a victorious return.
I kissed my coil, by the way.
Oh no, Brian.
Yeah.
Oh no. So next, you need to get your nicotine, whatever that happens to be. And you plug in the percentage of nicotine. I believe I'm going to need what's our nicotine syringe? There we go. You plug in whatever you want your nicotine to be. And so you're going to subtract that from your total of VG. So go ahead and glove on up here real quick. Got my eye protection on. Not sure you guys can see. Got my eye protection on because I'm just like anything with VG. You're just going to shake the heck out of your VG nicotine. So you're just going to subtract your nicotine from the total. From your total. Okay, so I need, for my mix here, I'm going to mix this up at 1.5 milligrams. I need 2.8 milliliters of 100 milligram nicotine. And so I just draw it up. Very viscous, very thick. We are close already. That is 2.8 mLs of 100 milligram VG nicotine. Make sure you get as much of it out as you can.
Also, all of your utensils, when you're finished, a little bit of dish soap, like Dawn, and some warm water, and bathe them in it. You want to clean everything off. Use protection when you're doing that too.
Exactly.
And if you're a beginner, I don't recommend using high concentrations of nicotine because there's more risk. Also, be aware if you have pets or kids, keep everything stored in child protective containers, and have everything clearly labeled and out of reach.
Exactly. Yes, the only reason I'm doing this is because someone had mentioned that they had bought a different level of nicotine. Yeah,
we're helping somebody that ordered incorrectly from what we recommended.
Yes. So,
and if you do want to do this, by the way, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I'm not knocking. I think it's awesome. But watch Fresh's show on Saturdays.
And I'll show you all sorts of things on the Saturday show. So I need 136. So you just fill this up to 100 really quickly. There's 100. And this is just a different way to do it. Because I know this is going to steep, I'm putting it in glass with a nice stainless steel cap with a seal on it.
Also, any improvements, corrections, comments about anything that happened on our shows every week, pop on over to the Facebook group and comment there. We'll be happy to read your responses, make corrections on future shows if there were mistakes made. So we'd appreciate it. But this is all of us together. We're just trying to help people.
Is someone getting critical out there, Brian?
No, I'm just making sure people know that.
Perfect. So next, I need 37.6. 37.6.
Fresh, I just want to let you know I've been thinking about you when I lie in bed at night. And it has to do with flavorings and layering. And I'm really looking forward to working on some awesome mixes with you.
I can teach you all about layering, Brian.
I know. I'm excited.
So this is at 137 or thereabout, or at 37 milliliters. I'm going to call that good enough. Because that'll just drop the percentage a little bit, and I'm fine with that. Plus, it'll water my nicotine down a little bit more. I don't like a whole lot of nicotine in my life at this point. So, next, just take your cap, get it situated on there. Because I know this has to go away for a few weeks. Perfect. And just in case anything got on it, just wipe the outside down really quick. So if you have separate nicotine, that is all you do. You just measure it out separately and make sure it doesn't count against your total. All right, so I'm going to move my camera back up top really quick.
Yeah, somebody was talking about hotspots, Fresh.
Yes.
Nick hotspots with the VG premix.
Yes.
If you wanted to thoroughly eliminate the potential of that, putting your pre-VG Nick in a smaller bottle like this and then doing a warm bath with it and then actually blending the VG with the Nick would probably be a better way of mixing it.
Exactly. And you have to watch out for that on any size batch that you're making. If you look, like let's say you use unicorn bottles like I do, if you look down at the very bottom, you'll always see a little patch of VG that just will not seem to mix. And so you just have to keep going after it. You flip it over, you go after it that way. Flip the bottle over, go after it that way. And that's why you're shaking this stuff up for 45 seconds, minute and a half. You're trying to eliminate all those hot spots. The hot spot with nicotine is why I told Brian, when you get that big bottle, because there is so much space in there and because there is so much weight behind everything, it's easy to mix everything up. So you're just using its own momentum against it. And so it doesn't require quite as much to really break up nicotine, any little hot spots in there. You just have to be cautious because the last thing you want is a spot of 36 milligram nicotine hiding in your 3 milligram mix. And next thing you know, you're vaping 18 milligrams and falling over sideways.
You'll just get a little bit nauseous, maybe a little dizzy.
So, caramel apple crisp.
Somebody said tape a bottle to a Sawzall blade. You can actually tape a lot of things to a Sawzall blade and use them. That's what I'm saying.
Hold on a second here. Where's Niji? Hey, Niji.
I'm looking at you.
How you doing, girl?
No, I'm not girl. Say Brian. Call me by my name.
Brian. As the e-liquid explodes all over me. That would have been perfect. That would have been a perfect way to end the show. I would have had to demand a post-show edit.
We should take donations on this show for you to call out people by their first name when we're doing mixing by hand.
That's right. So, as you can see, frothed up. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
You're looking for it to be nice and frothed up. And it will separate back out into normal e-liquid. There's the green. As you can see, you're starting to be able to see through the green. And the Rhodonite was nice and mixed up. Rhodonite's back to normal, the very first one that I did. So there you go, everybody. I did 3 different concentrates in less than an hour.
Yep. And I also did my concentrate. And there's one last thing I wanted to touch on, Fresh. 2 things, actually, before we finish tonight's show, because we're running out of time.
Yes.
The one thing is, and I'll share my experience with this. So when you have 3 milligrams of nicotine in your premix VG, and then you do a mix, say like my mix was 150 milliliters, this will not end up being 3 milligrams of nic.
No, it'll be
like 2.
It'll be above 2 milligrams. Yeah. What'd you say? 20%?
It was a 20% mix.
It's about 2.5 milligrams.
2.5 milligrams
or so.
Now, I vape every day, 3 milligrams of nic, and I do not notice, for me, nic withdrawal or any sort of side effects of vaping 2, 2.4 versus 3. When I drop to 1.5 is when I start to notice it. That's for me. If you wanted to offset that, how would you do that, Fresh? Say you wanted a true 3 milligrams of
then nic. You would have to go out and separately buy your nic.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it.
Or there is another way. You can buy your pre-mixed e-liquid at double the strength. Yes. That you would normally buy. You would buy your premix e-liquid at 3 milligram or at 6 milligram. And what you would do is the very first thing is you measure out exactly half of how much you want your batch to be of that VG'd up nic. And then you would add everything else in on top of that. And you would also need a separate bottle of VG
by itself
or whatever you want. But in order to get your true nicotine percentage, there's only two ways to do it. And that is both ways involve adding more nicotine. So it's all dependent on you. Like Brian said, doing it this way, mixing your big batches with the pre-mixed e-liquid, you're not really going to notice. It has to be a significantly lower amount, like it would have to be down to 1.5. And the difference from 3 to 1.5 for me, I really didn't notice it. I vaped a little bit more, but not a whole lot more. And then by the time a couple days went by, I was back to vaping what I normally vape. I vape quite a bit.
So Fresh,
yeah.
Awesome show, man. I'm loving this. I think it's going to be an amazing show for you, for me, for the community.
I'm loving this show, Brian. And fantastic job tonight.
The video quality is much better this week. I bought a brand new computer, so I'm running much higher end equipment this week, so the quality should be better. The audio we got figured out very quickly this week. I do want to talk about next show. So next week on Monday, you guys should have your orders in. My Nicotine River order that I placed last week after the show will be arriving tomorrow. So we're always going to try to give you 2 weeks in between when we tell you what we're going to mix and what we're actually going to mix. So next week on the show, we're going to talk about flavor substitutions.
Yes.
We're going to talk about if you have Bavarian Cream from Flavor West and the recipe calls for another brand of Bavarian Cream, what to do. And we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about volume versus weight a little bit. We've already started talking about that. I have a couple more things on the plan that are secret. And we're also going to start our shake and vape to start the show. So we're going to actually begin the show making the fruit kaki. If you don't know what the shake and vape fruit kaki is, there should be a recipe below this video on the replay and also on our Fresh from the Kitchen on our Facebook group, which is a link below also for that. Fruit kaki we're going to shake and vape. Then we're going to break down different flavors, different companies, flavor companies, who they are, what they are, where to get them. We're also going to talk about sweeteners a little bit. And we're also going to do our first real mix on the show, and that is the Strawberry Sundae, it's called.
Yes, DQ style Strawberry Sundae.
DQ style Strawberry Sundae. Now, when we mix the DQ style Strawberry Sundae, that's actually going to be like this was, but it's going to be individual flavorings with it. And then we're going to steep it for 2 weeks, and then we're going to vape it on the show together.
Yes.
So that's going to be exciting. And then we'll talk about what we're going to need in the future.
Yes. So, yes, for next week, we should have the recipe for the Strawberry Sundae on both places, if I remember correctly now.
Yeah, we should.
I think it's on there.
We'll double check.
Okay.
Any other comments, concerns, curse words?
I hope that everybody got to see just how easy it is. And you got to remember, with all of these that I bought, I probably spent less than $50 getting all the supplies together in one place to mix. Right there's over 300 mils of liquid.
Yep. Almost
400 mils of liquid for less than $50. And this is just getting started. By the time you grab those supplies and you start stockpiling your stuff, it just gets cheaper after that initial purchase.
This 150 milliliter bottle of Bondage Pounder, when it's all said and done, costs under $20 for 150 milliliters of premium. I mean, just the pudding pounder has 17 different flavors in it. So really complex, premium, high-quality liquid. Under $20 for 150 mils, you can't beat it. So there you go, everybody. Hit the like button, share it with your friends, ask people to join us. Let's create a community. Let's do this together. Let's help people quit smoking. Let's advocate for our vaping rights. Let's take our power back as a community. So much love.
I love all of you. Brian the most, but I love all of you.
I love you physically and emotionally. I'm getting connected as we go forward with this.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to become more physical.
Let's get physical like Olivia Newton-John, everybody. See you next week.
Physical. Physical.